Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I am John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. A good topic for you today. Let's do it. What was your moment of purest fear and terror? Please remember to like, share, hype, ask, and listen for shoutouts, and subscribe.
When my ex-husband got a gun out of the car, fired a shot at me, got between me and the door so I could not get to our kids, then he held the gun under his chin, then at my heart, fired another shot out into the yard and held the gun back under his chin. All I could see were visions of him blowing his head off right in front of me. And I kept calmly talking to him, trying to get him to think of the children and give me the gun. Then he took off in the house and I heard another shot. I thought he shot one of our children. He ran back outside and held the gun under his chin and then collapsed. I was able to pry the gun out of his hands. The neighbors had already called the cops, and they had an entire SWAT team, complete with dogs, arrive within a minute of me getting the gun away from him. They arrested him. It was all so surreal. Like living your worst nightmare. The next day was when I had to go file for a restraining order. I was shaking so bad that the handwriting was really messed up. Then having to testify in court was just nerve-wracking. It only takes a 4-minute incident to ruin the lives of everyone and make them terrified for years. My daughter is still in counseling and still fears her father 3 years later, even though she does not see him. My son was too young to remember, but I remember. I remember all the time. The day following my mother's death, the realization that this time of my life was over, the time when I could go back to live with my mom if things turned to shit, were gone. That and so many other things. No more calls, no more I love yous, etc. I was 19 years old when it happened, and it definitely was the most terrifying moment of my life. No contacts with my father since I was 12. But of all things, the part that hurt the most out of it, no more phone calls. To realize that no matter what, no matter how long you wait, or how many times the phone rings, it'll never be her voice again, asking me how I'm doing, if I have enough food, telling me that she loves me. Not the paranormal or violent type of terror, but utterly soul-crushing and pure terror for me. My husband has taken our baby out for the day and I was home alone. Obviously, I decided to go for a nap. I woke up gloriously refreshed, but I immediately realized something was wrong. Someone was breathing heavy, wet breath right behind me. I was utterly petrified. I went cold and thought that I would never see my baby girl or my husband again. Then it hit me. I had left the baby monitor on downstairs and the walkie-talkie part was on my nightstand. What I was hearing was the dog enthusiastically licking itself. But the moment before I realized what had happened was literally the most frightening 3 or 4 seconds of my life. When I was a teenager, I used to have trouble sleeping. One time I went downstairs to get a drink or something, and I saw a tall guy in a hoodie leaned against our back door and looking inside. It was all glass. I just kind of froze up, didn't really know what to do. This was the shit that you had an irrational fear. We stared at each other for like 2 seconds. Then I noticed he was reaching for the door handle. Well, good old reliable brother of mine forgot to lock it, so it slid right open. When he could fit through the door, he put his hand in his hoodie pocket and came sprinting at me. All of that happened in about 4 or 5 seconds. Thank God he accidentally kicked a wooden chair that was at the family table and fell down. My dog sure heard that and came flying down the stairs like a bat out of hell. We called the police. Turns out he was stalking the neighbor behind us for quite a while, but stopped after robbing a house there and moved on to ours. Creepy shit. We got an alarm system after that. Falling out of a moving vehicle into the middle of an intersection. The back of my head slammed into the pavement and everything went from the neck down numb. I tried to move my legs but couldn't. Same with my arms. I saw my left arm fly across my face as I hit but didn't know if it was on top of me, under me, or snapped in half. Worst of all I could do was stare at a car came toward me lying in the middle of the road. Didn't hit me, but dear God, that was terrifying. In the span of about 3 seconds, I went from completely okay to thinking I was paralyzed to thinking I was going to die. I was 15 and in Florence, waiting in line to see Michelangelo's David. I had to use the bathroom, so I walked over to a bar, bought a Coke, and then asked where the bathroom was. I was handed a key and went down a spiral staircase. At the bottom, there were 2 light switches. Turned them, walked through the first door and locked it. That's where the sink was. Walked through the next door and locked it. That's where the toilet was. I was buttoning my jeans when the light turned off and I heard some loud banging at the door slamming open. Then the banging was on the second door. I started screaming. The door flew open and someone grabbed me. I'm still screaming. Then the lights turned on and I'm thrown into a wall while 2 men fight. One took off, one took me upstairs and got me water. I couldn't stop shaking. This is a rough one for me. Mine was looking into my father's eyes as he had me pinned against the door right before he started punching me. His face was completely devoid of emotion, but I saw uncontrolled rage in his eyes. He punched me in the face for what seemed like an eternity. Probably only hit me 5 to 6 times. At one point, I tried to turtle up, so he kicked me in the side of my head and hauled me back up to punch me some more. He had me pinned against the door to the garage, and in between punches, he was slamming me into the door, which split the door frame apart. He blamed me and made me fix it. The door to the garage was at the top of a flight of stairs. After he was done punching me, he threw me down the stairs and told me he better not see me again. I crawled into my room and bled on the carpet for a while because you and your carpet. My stepmom came home a while later, and by the time she brought me dinner, both my eyes were swollen shut. She told me I deserved it, but I needed to go to the hospital. He had broken my nose so much so that the cartilage had separated and the bridge was cracked. They rebuilt my nose and sent me home. Not sure what my stepmom told them that happened. I was confined to my room for 6 months after that. Whoa. Scariest shit ever. While I was back at college, I had the opportunity to fly out to Kansas City to see a friend for a weekend. We hadn't seen each other in a while and I really needed a break, so I obliged the invitation. I arrived at around 9 p.m. I knew nothing about the city, and he didn't have a car or a cell phone because of how close his apartment was to campus. He walked to pick me up from the bus station where I got off from the airport. We went back to his apartment. We started the night off talking and drinking. It was a blast. The time went on and quickly became 3 a.m. We noticed the time, and just as there came a loud knock on the door. Did someone just knock on the door with a piece of metal? I asked my friend. I think so, but let me go check. Suddenly, and roaring loud, we hear a door, a man calling in a deep, guttural voice, "Candy, free candy." He continued to knock. "Open the door and come out for some free candy." My friend approached the peephole quietly and peered through. He turned around with color slowly draining from his face. He mouthed the words, "We're going to die." He slithered to the floor and wormed his way back to where I was squatting behind the couch. Together, we made our way to the back of the apartment and hid in a closet. The knocking continued. I asked him what he had seen. He must be at least 6.5 feet tall. He's black, ripped, and completely naked except for a do-rag and has a double-barreled shotgun. Oh boy. His reply carried the emotions of being half amazed and shocked at what he was seeing. We shat bricks while waiting for the door to come down in splinters. The knocking continued to get louder and louder. We could feel the pounding from the door in the floor where we were hiding. There were no phones to call for help, no car to run out of the window. We were on the 4th floor with no access to the stairwell. There was nowhere for us to go. After about 15 or so minutes, the knocking stopped. We no longer heard anyone yelling or offering free candy. We waited for another half an hour or so before coming out and looking back into the hallway. He was gone. The next morning, I went out and rented a car. My friend went and bought a cell phone. We made a police report, but they never followed up on it.
Hey guys, I just want to say thank you. I was just looking at the comments from yesterday's video for all the birthday wishes, so each and every one of you really means the world to me. And for today, November 3rd, I want to wish a very happy birthday to a literal brick. That's his username, not an actual brick, but you get it. Anyway, many happy returns, my friend, and thank you again. I love this community. Have a great day, guys.
A loaded handgun with a silencer on it pressed to my head, held by a man dressed in black with a ski mask in my home late at night. All I could think about at that time was being so glad my wife wasn't home to be involved in this, and horrified that my friends were. I was pretty sure my 3 friends and I were about to be murdered. Turns out they didn't shoot me in the head, only the leg, then beat me with a hammer. They did go and find my dog and shoot him 6 times in the head, though. 22 shots through a silencer. He lived, after 2 weeks on life support, thank God. Living through the following year was what deep terror nightmares are made of. What happened? I woke up one day in high school years ago. I was pretty much a bum, and it really took me a lot to pull myself out of the sheets. So, I would always try and do things to prolong the actual waking up, i.e. shower with the lights off. So this one day I'm showering with the lights off. I finish up and open the shower door to turn the lights on. I flick it, and they don't come on. I think, oh, the power's out. This happened often where I lived. So I opened the bathroom door to let some sunlight into the room. No light. At this point, I start really panicking. I throw open all the doors I can, stumbling around in the darkness without being able to see anything. I scream for my mother, who I thought still might be home, but she had gone to work. So I'm in hysterics, crawling up the stairs on all fours, buck-ass naked because I'm completely blind. I finally get to the telephone to dial 911. I get through 9-1, and slowly my vision started expanding. A sliver at first, and then eventually I was able to see everything again. Seriously, so terrifying. I've been mugged, used as a drug mule, and been in a minor plane crash, but nothing more terrifying than waking up blind. My wife and I went on our honeymoon in Nassau. We went snorkeling out pretty far. When we reached the edge of the walled-off area, we decided to go back in. We went off in the same direction. I would come up and look where I was going a few times and saw her. After a while, I looked up again and couldn't find her anywhere. I swam back and forth, looking. Swam to the dock in the middle and talked to the lifeguard to help me find her. I was terrified and in tears. My new wife lost in the Bahamas, probably drowned, and I had to go home without her. I made it back to shore, and they finally came over the loudspeaker calling for her. She walked up like nothing was wrong. Wife is obviously a better, faster swimmer than me. I watched a friend take a fake shot of heroin after having drank almost an entire fifth. He stumbled around for a bit and then sat on his ass and slumped forward. I knew what was going on and I was calm. I grabbed my phone and tried to sit him up. He fell backwards and made some wheezing groans. His lips were the first thing to turn blue. I was really scared, but I felt like this would happen eventually, so I was kind of prepared. I was on this phone with the ambulance and ran downstairs and propped all the doors open. I ran back up to my friend, who at this point was bluish and purple in the face as well as lips. His heart was in a regular rhythm at first, and then it stopped. His eyes twinkled a tiny bit when I lifted his lids. I held his face and was, for whatever reason, aware of the thick stubble that lined his cold jaw. I was holding him while he died, and the only thing I could think was, this isn't him fighting. There is no internal conscious struggle he has to overcome. He's just a pile of meat going through all of its fail-safes and losing. I ran downstairs and guided the ambulance to my apartment. When they showed up, one of the EMTs says, "Oh, it looks like we got one," which I assume meant dead. But he lived. They brought him back and he had minor brain damage. According to the doctors, if I'd waited a minute longer to call, he probably wouldn't have made it or had been pretty badly damaged mentally. He thanks me for being there for him, and I still am racked with nightmares. You know why? He was scared that shooting up while drunk would be a bad idea, and I told him he'd be fine. Terrible. I'm a steady person. The more tense the situation, the more calm and centered I am. However, in the moments leading up to that tension, the adrenaline and expectation can be almost overwhelming. The very day that I'd graduated from the last step in naval nuclear power training pipeline, I was assigned to stand reactor operator watch by myself. I'd sat at the panel a dozen times before, but always with someone at my side. I knew my job and I knew it well, but now I had to do it alone. But that's all right. It was just a normal training day. There was no need for concern. Nothing untoward was going to happen. And then, someone came and sat beside me. He was one of the staff instructors. An announcement was made over the 2MC, engineering-wide PA system, that all staff instructors were to take the watch from their students for a period of staff training, advanced drills. In other words, they were going to throw some heavy drills and testing and simulated accidents at the instructors while the students watched. Only the guy sitting beside me wasn't a reactor operator instructor. He was an electrical operator and a member of the drill team. He couldn't take over for me. That's when I realized he wasn't there to take over for me. He was there to evaluate me on the drill. I had to do an instructor level drill. So I think to myself, there's no way they're going to have this be a drill that has anything to do with the reactor operator. Not on my first day qualified to even sit in the chair alone. And then he reached out and placed a small fake instrument indicator over one of my regular instrument indicators. It was just a small see-through plastic cage with a fake indicator needle. You could still see the proper reading behind it. And he set the needle at a particular level to simulate something for the drill, and I knew this was absolutely going to involve me. I was chewing the inside of my cheek, my hands were clammy, my heart was racing, and my eyes were rapidly flying over the indicators, looking for the slightest thing out of whack. All of my senses were turned to the panel in front of me and the sounds of the world around me. And then an alarm went off, there were flashing lights, and suddenly everything was in slow motion. The shakes were gone, and I was calm, quick, and sure in every action I took, announcing them as I took them. My flurry of motion as I turned switches and changed settings lasted maybe 5 seconds, and then I sat down and started logging the event. The guy next to me observing me, it was his turn to have a heart attack as he watched me move much more quickly than he had anticipated. If I had done something wrong, he'd have never been able to stop me in time. But I didn't do anything wrong, I nailed it. He leaned over and whispered that was perfect. And if you ever move that fast on an RPCP reactor plant control panel in a drill again, I'll break your arm. I work at a dairy about 40 miles outside of town, and it begun as any other day would. Well, during the day, I was servicing a water pump outside of cow manure holding pit. This was in early January last year, and it was still about 24 degrees Fahrenheit outside. To get supplies, my dad leaves me to go do some tinkering. My stupid teenage curiosity gets the best of me and says, "Gee, Matt, you could walk on this seemingly frozen cow manure and be like a sort of cow shit Jesus." So, while my dad is away, I slowly creep out onto the cement blocks anchored to the bottom of the shit pit. First step, so far so good. Second step, crack, crack, plunge. I fell into freezing cold but liquid cow poop, and immediately I started panicking and hyperventilating. With only some rebar to hold on to, my hope was fading fast, and I knew I couldn't hold until my dad got back. I was about 5'10" at the time, and tried feeling around for a bottom to seemingly bottomless pit. I found it, and I was able to walk along the floor and throw myself across the concrete blocks. My pants almost came off because of the liquid cow shit clinging to them was weighing them down so much. I climb up and call my dad, asking if my mother could bring me my clothes. I have a heart arrhythmia, and when I first noticed it, went to my doctor. He directed me to the ER immediately. I felt fine, but apparently my heart condition is usually extremely serious. So when the doctor and nurses in the emergency room first saw it on the EKG, they freaked out and started working quickly to get my heart rate under control. After trying a few injections of different things meant to slow my heart rate, the discussion came up that they might need to use a defibrillator, and it was possible I wouldn't be sedated for it. They brought one into the room, and I said, "No, Dad, get that thing away from me." Pure terror. Thankfully, a cardiologist had time by that point to look over my tests and determined my condition wasn't immediately life-threatening. So I was transferred to a room, and eventually they found a medication that worked. My best friend, her husband, my sister, and I had gone out and gotten pretty incredibly wasted one night. Definitely not out of the ordinary for us. We got a car back to my best friend's house, and my sister and I stayed in their guest room that night, which is right across the hall from their bedroom. It was about 7:30 a.m. when I was awakened by my best friend's husband screaming my best friend's name. I could hear the terror in his voice, and I laid in bed for a split second thinking, "Okay, T. Marie 32, this is it. She's dead, and you're going to have to go in there and help her husband get everything in order. You're an adult now. Go." I heard him scream, "Guys, help!" as I was getting out of my bed. I walked into their room expecting to see my best friend dead on their bed in a pool of vomit in the style of Jane from Breaking Bad. What I saw instead was my best friend happily strolling out of their master bathroom saying, "Guys, I'm okay, I was just pooping." Apparently, she had fainted while she was on the toilet and went white and shaky for a minute, and it scared the shit out of her husband, and he thought she was dead. She woke up and ended up being fine. She got checked out and she's perfectly healthy. So it was just a weird freak situation, but my God, it was terrifying for me, and I can only imagine how her husband felt in that moment.